Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it off, got it! Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn Emmy winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Wednesday, back in the friendly confines of the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, high atop the 18th fairway. Hope you had an enjoyable last couple of days with us up in Minneapolis for Big Ten basketball media days. But we have returned, albeit a very late night return. We're back. We'll have plenty to talk about what went on there. I didn't get a chance, as much of a chance as normal, to spend around at other coaches. I was wanting to get over to talk to Tom Izzo, things like that. They scheduled it kind of wonky. But, of course, don't forget Indiana Sports Beat Radio, powered by Andy Moore Honda, in Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com. And the best in sales, new and used, everything you need. Go ask for our friend Rish. They're the greatest place around, without question. How's everybody doing? Did you take in any of the content from Big Ten Media Day? You got questions? What do you got? On the program today, our buddy Dylan Sinn will be joining us from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Rick Bozich, the Hall of Famer as well. So we'll get caught up with Rick's take on everything as well, and we'll appreciate that. Looking forward to answering any of your questions. I did not, and I apologize, over the last 2 days when we're live like that, it's really hard for me to, first of all, to see the questions, because the setup, the way the setup is, because after the fact, I saw there was a couple of good questions, like for Woody, but that's also, to be honest with you, such a limited time. If I didn't get that point across, their schedule it's crazy. I mean, they're like, man, I wish, number one, they did not give us a physical copy of that stuff. So it's all sent out in an email, which was not true. The times we're like searching who's when, what. That's the only bad thing. But Minneapolis, I'm going to rank Minneapolis this time as you know, before I have just bitched and moaned about having to go there. And I can't say I'm still happy about having to return for both the men's and the women's basketball tournaments. And talking to the gentleman who did an incredible job from the Big Ten of making our life easy up there, he reminded me that, oh yeah, they're both here. And I'm like, oh man, crap, that's, weekend in front of weekend. And Indiana, the women's team, they should be expected to be in the championship. So then of course the men's tournament will start 2 days post that. That could be a 9-day run to have to go back to Minneapolis in March, which is like January in regular people's lives. So, but we'll talk more about that. But I got some good things to say about Minneapolis. You might be surprised. I was. The AL East champion Baltimore Orioles swept and out of the playoffs. And I thought I heard a stat last night that said this is like the 8th straight year the AL East champion is gone, which is crazy. Mary Lou You remember her from back in the day, 84, Olympic champion, apparently in the hospital fighting for her life with a rare form of pneumonia. She's only 55. So thoughts go out to her. Juwan Howard did not make the trip from Michigan, a month removed from heart surgery. No timetable on his return. And again, I point out, not that this doesn't happen to a lot of people, but, you think of someone like Juwan Howard, dude was in great shape, we played in the NBA, and not that he's still doing that, but the coaches usually have a tendency, it's been my experience, that most of these collegiate and pro coaches, they take advantage of all the workout facilities they have, whether it's on the bike or whatever. I mean, even you look at Tom Allen, that dude's fit, man. I got news for you. But the best for him, I didn't get to talk to as many people as I liked. If I haven't said that, I'm not getting over to talk to Tom Izzo, Matt Painter. Stuff was going on at the same time. But we had plenty of content from Mike Woodson. Of course, we had him live on the show yesterday. Very grateful again to IU Media Relations, Jeff Kegg, and our good friend Charlie Clifford for making that stuff happen. And but there's some other things that are said in the breakout sessions. It was with Mike Woodson. By the time I got over to there, he was actually talking about how he had gotten into coaching, and there were some cool things he said at the end, talking about the notes and the stacks that he called them books, but basically notebooks that he has. And I asked him, because in having talked to several Bob Knight players, know that they all were required to take notes during practice. And Todd Leary will tell you he's got, I think a stack of 4. So ask Coach about that. And, he still has those. But plenty else to get to on your plate. Some, oh, man. John Boy, I don't know. I sent out a clip off of YouTube, and I wonder if I can pull this up myself, the clip that I sent out. I asked, any of them, but it ended up getting the question to the Purdue guys, a question, which was Zach Edey, rather. Daggone messages keep coming in and distracting me. But the big Edey, instead of that's his nickname he should adopt. Instead of the Big Easy, you got the Big Edey. Little play on words there. Dude is humongous. Did you see him banging bang the gong at the Colts game the other day? We were talking about that. He said, did you see that big hat they sent him? What the hell was that? I mean, this is not the Colts. That was the Colts sent them that hat to wear. But is that like, I've never seen the bang on the gong thing. Is that a Colts thing that I've just missed out on up till now? But they sent him this a hat like this, blown up 10 times. It was just like a big old gigantic Purdue hat, which on a 7'2" or whatever he is guy, you don't need anything big. He is big. But he was on the dais, he had a baseball. I guess that someone had given him in there, and it may have been an ALDS baseball, because I thought I saw the logo on there. But in his hand, it would just disappear. And Myron Metcalf of ESPN said, let us see that. Hold it out there. So he I know you, for those, if you're listening on the radio, you can't see me, but he just wrapped his fingers around the baseball and, extended it forward. And it was basically, if he would put his fingers together and put both hands out, he could probably do a guess which hand the baseball is in. And I'm thinking, holy moly, can you imagine him being on the mound and being able to Randy Johnson that to you? That'd be a little worried. But you will talk about a changeup, man. Crazy. Gritty says Edie looked like a bigger dork than normal. Well, another thing I took away when they were on the dais, Ethan Morton did not seem engaged at all. Leaned back, looking the other way the whole time, unless a question was posed his way, which as a coach, I would have, if I saw that, I would say, guys, when you're in this situation, you're representing the school, act like you want to be there, even if you don't, which most guys seem to enjoy. It's not a big deal. They get treated like kings. They all get, a free suit made. The IU guys, they take them and they get a special suit made for the event, which is apropos. We talked about that when I had X and Trey on. But they're either all business and really don't give a snot about it. Mason Gillis, of course, Zach Edey's getting most of the questions, but there was a question that I'm hoping I can find the little short that I clip, whatever, that I tried to cut off of a video and post, that I asked him, they were talking about losing certain games and this and that, and I brought up at one point, I said, well, when you lose a game, I said regular season games are not going to define any season. I understand that. I said, but there are certain games that just mean more. And I said the Indiana series, of course, was a big one. You guys had beaten them 9 times in a row. They end up getting the sweep. I said, how hard was that, taking that loss at Mackey? And he was giving his answer and he said, it was and acknowledged that it was hard, but he goes, if it takes 2 losses to Indiana every year to get these, and he held up 2 big ass rings. He goes, I'll take that. He said, but it hurts. But so that's I'm gonna give him props. Good answer. And to be that clever, first of all, he was the only one wearing those rings, and they were gigantic. And he had them on, fingers side by side.
Break.
So we'll be back to talk with more. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette will chime in to all things that happened in Minneapolis as well. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Good morning, Dylan.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Dylan, were you in Louisville this weekend?
No, I wasn't. I watched the game, though. I know what happened.
I mean, I knew you knew what happened. I just didn't know if you were in town for the game. I know you cover Notre Dame frequently.
What game? Whoa. What?
Notre Dame.
Louisville, Notre Dame.
Oh.
Yeah. No, I tried to get a credential like a week and a half before the game, and they said they were full. I've never had that happen to me in 6 years doing this.
Wow.
Well, for one thing, it's Louisville.
Yeah. No, I was not
massive press box though. I mean,
I know like that. I've been there.
If I were you, I would have reached out to. I'm sure the Notre Dame SID knows you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I would have reached out and said, "Hey man, is there anything you can do?"
Yeah, I probably should have, but I was able to cover some high school stuff instead, so it was okay.
Notre Dame is this close to being absolutely average.
Yeah, no, I mean
they're a 4th and 17 conversion away from having 3 losses already.
Yes. Now, in
which
fairness,
blows my mind.
In fairness, they're also putting the right number of guys on the field from still being in the playoff race too. So
there's that.
Isn't that crazy? The margin of error in football.
Oh yeah, like
for any win, that's insane.
They basically
Notre Dame out of the playoffs already.
Yeah, they basically had back-to-back weeks where it was a coin flip, and what do you know? They won one of the two. Usually, how coin flips work.
And Louisville is a team that is, I think, well, they've gotten better. They've just gotten better. Here's a team that Indiana could have beaten.
Oh yeah, and they are
really good at game managing, is what I've noticed.
That's because Jeff Brom. Number one, you got Jeff Brom, who is an experienced head coach, and I cannot stress that enough. Experienced head coach. He came up through the ranks. He was Western was his first head job, I think. Right?
Yes, yeah, Western.
So
Kentucky,
he had. But he was an assistant under Petrino at Western, in addition to have been an assistant to him at Louisville. But then to be an assistant to a guy like that, and then get to take over that kind of program, then move on. He didn't go to Illinois, did he?
No, he was at Purdue.
Well, I know that, but
it was
Illinois was wanting him
to Purdue. Here we go. We got to
Illinois was one. 44040. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by K-Bello. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday. It's October 11th. Thanks a lot for being with us. Appreciate you very much. As always, joined now by our good friend Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. How's everybody doing up in Fort Wayne? All of our good friends listening on 1380 The Fan, Fort Wayne's sports station. As a matter of fact, make sure you stay tuned after for Brett Rump Sports. That'll be coming to you next. Dylan, a lot going on. I know you're a baseball fan. AL East champ Baltimore swept. Bam! It's like 8 years in a row. The East Division has been the best. I don't know if they've been the best every year, but they've gotten kicked out of the playoffs for like 8 straight years.
Yeah. First time since 2011, no AL East teams in the ALCS. That's kind of crazy.
That's a run right there. Juwan Howard did not make the trip to Minneapolis for Big Ten Media Days, still dealing with the after effects of heart surgery a month ago. No timetable set for his return. That was something of note. I was mentioning earlier, I'm wondering if Purdue was all biz, because when I got to the player in the breakouts, the schedule sucked, to be honest with you, in that regard. I could not get I needed to clone myself. I wanted to get over to Tom Izzo. He is always a must-stop spot to talk to, because he is he's not going to coach speak you. And he's not going to coach speak you. And he's been around long enough. He doesn't deal with that BS. But didn't get to do that. We're fortunate to have Mike Woodson and Trey Galloway, Xavier Johnson on the show live, and then go to the breakouts with those guys. But I'm sure you've watched some of the video, and what stood out so far for you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, what stands out for me specifically, and for Purdue especially, is that they know they're going to have to keep answering questions about Fairleigh Dickinson. They know that they're kind of expecting them at this point. Like, yeah, I almost wondered whether they'd be kind of tired of them and start snapping at people for asking, but they're not. They know
Funny
that
you
it's coming.
say that because the body language. I talked about this before you joined us. I said I don't know if it's that Purdue is just all biz, or they really didn't want some of them want to be there. If you can find a video, well, hell, look at mine. Just look at Ethan Morton.
Yeah.
The whole time, he's Zach Edey's to his right and Mason Gill, and he's like, just, it's like he couldn't have cared less to be there.
Yeah.
So whatever. But I will say this. I did ask, and we'll try to get that pulled up and played. But Mason Gillis, they were talking. It was in a point we're talking about losses and losses hurting, and I think it was probably about Fairleigh Dickinson. And then I asked, I said, I know that a regular season loss does not ever define a season. I said, but there are certain games that are just big. And I said, the Indiana series, you guys had beaten them 9 times in a row, but the last year they get the sweep. I said, what did that loss do? And he gave I will give him props. He gave a great answer. He said that, I'd be lying if I said it didn't hurt, but we had 4 goals set and we got 2 out of the 4. He goes, and if I gotta take 2 losses to IU to get these, and he holds up 2 rings about the size of my coffee cup.
Yeah, they're huge. Yeah.
Yeah, he goes, he's got the bling. He was the only one wearing is if I got to take 2 losses to get these, he goes, I'll take that trade. So I thought it was a smart answer, but that they did for a team that achieved what they achieved.
Yeah,
they took some bad losses. The one to Indiana, they didn't lose. They got their ass kicked at home, and they weren't supposed to. Then you do what they do. I really wanted to get to Matt Painter because he's one of the other coaches that is great to talk to. But I wanted to ask, and pressure may not be the right word, but it probably is the right word. There has got to be an unbelievable amount of pressure on him to do something this year, because if not this season, when? You have the most dominant returning Big Ten champion team in quite some time.
Yeah.
And for the last 3 seasons, you have gotten beaten by an average number 13 seed. That's embarrassing. It's unacceptable by fans. And they have the whole damn team back. They're not adding, 3 faces. IU's got 6, and other teams have multi. They don't have that issue. They have the same team. So there has just the pressure. I don't care if they admit it or not. It's got to be there.
Oh, absolutely. And they know it. Like we talked to them last week in West Lafayette when they started practice, or 2 weeks ago now. And basically we asked them about, like, look, you guys know, and we all know that no game in the regular season matters at all. Like you're not playing a basketball game until March. You're not. No one is going to care. You could go 30-0. And Ethan Morton said this exact thing. He said, we could go 30-0 and win every game by 30 points and no one's going to care. And he said, we know that, but we still have to go 30-0 and win every game by 30 points. Like that's still the goal for them. Right. And then they'll figure out March when they get there. Now they're going to go and make some changes and all of that. Cause that's what Matt Painter said yesterday is he spent a lot of this offseason talking about how they're going to make small tweaks. They're not going to overhaul anything. And basically he was like yesterday, look, we're not going to make any enormous changes. We're not going to change what's working just because of a couple losses in March. Because like he said that there are changes we can make at the margin. But we're not going to overhaul everything we're doing just because of what happened last year. And so basically he's like, I'm not going to be bullied into changing something that's working just because everyone's convinced that it can't work in March. Because we've seen it work in March before, right? Like they didn't lose to St. Peter's in the first round. They beat a really good Texas team to get to face St. Peter's, and they lost that game, right? Like they made the Sweet 16 that year, and so it's just interesting how they're trying to walk the line between nothing is going to change at all and we are not fundamentally changing ourselves, I think is what they're trying to do, all while realizing that no one's going to believe anything that they do or say until March 15th, basically. So they're just in a fascinating position to me.
Yeah, and I know for those of you that are following along on YouTube, you can see this. Radio, you can't. I do have a picture pulled up of a video that's kind of stopped, and I think it says everything. Mason Gillis is kind of leaned back, looking forward. Zach Edey right in the middle, looking directly at, and then there's Ethan Morton just thinking about the cosmos, staring off into space, which is kind of wild. But here is, I may have this kind of right in the middle of my question to him, but let me make sure I've got this turned up. But this is the question that I asked.
What did that loss in Mackey do to you guys? And actually, I know you're an Indiana guy, but you guys haven't, but you live.
Yeah, I'll let Mason's Indiana guy, so I'll let him probably speak on that. My thing is if I had to take 2 losses to Indiana to get these, I'm okay with it. Yes, it does. It is tough to take those 2 losses to Indiana because that's our rival. But at the same time, our goal wasn't to beat Indiana. Our goal was to win the Big Ten season, win the Big Ten tournament, make the Final Four, win the national championship. We got 2 out of those 4 goals. 2 losses to get those 2 goals, I'll take it. I'm okay with it. But as a competitor, I don't want to lose any game, no matter who it is, too. But we have this year. We'll play them twice again this year, and we'll see what happens.
There you go. It's a good answer. I mean, there's not a lot else you can say. He kind of took his dose of medicine, but said, "Hey," and at the end of the day, he's not lying. I'm sure that you could ask a lot of the Indiana players that, "Hey, would you take 2 losses, but trade it for a Big Ten regular season and tournament championship ring?" I'm going to guess they'd say yes.
I think they would, because I mean that means your season was like, regardless of what happened, they had a successful season, right? Like it's still, there's a lot of good memories they made during the regular season of winning games that were a lot of fun for their fans and all of that. So like, you win a Big Ten title, you did something. They went 15-5 in league play, or 16-4, whatever it was. They won the league by 3 games. And they had fun doing it. And yeah, it wasn't all that fun at the end, but there were some games where they played very, very well and really put some good basketball out there. And that's what you want out of a season generally. Now you want to do more in March than they did, obviously, but generally that's what you want out of a season, is to do what they did.
And the other way at Indiana, that's, I don't know where the pressure level is there, because there's pressure to succeed. Mike Woodson is in year 3. It's been a slow, progressive climb, but now you're at a point to where, okay, is this a little bit of a reset? You've got very good elite talent, but you still have to kind of go farther than you did last year, or are you just at a level place? So the succession has to continue to rise, and that's going to be harder to do because last year you had an incumbent team. You had a 4-year guy that was a dominant player. You had a guy that you knew you could count on for a basket, for a defensive role, and now it may be something better because they have other outlets. Will Mackenzie Mbako be one of those outlets? Will he be able to be a shooter that that Indiana needs in the time that they need. That's one of the things they've critically not had, a guy that can knock down the shot when it's needed. But they do. We've talked about depth a lot for the last couple of years, and it turned out to not be true. Some of it was injury due, but then you had Jordan Geronimo, who I forgot was at Maryland until yesterday. A question came up.
Who apparently they're very excited about.
Well, and I said this yesterday to somebody. I'm like, what are they going to say? He sucks. I wish he hadn't come here. But I'm sure he's working hard because he's got his own motivation. He wants to prove something. He wants to prove something to Indiana. He wants to prove something to himself. But I think the Big Ten is going to be we don't know. There's just so much unknown this year, other than Purdue should be better than they were last year.
I agree. I agree. I think the two knowns in the Big. I mean, I think two knowns in the Big Ten are that Purdue should be very, very good and Michigan State should be very, very good. Michigan State worries me because you're expecting a lot from guys who have not produced before, right? I think Cohen Carr is a superstar. I've seen that guy play. I think he's awesome. We haven't seen him play in college. Like you never know, right? Same with Jeremy Fears. But they have the talent to go do something. I love Tyson Walker. I will tell you guys a sneak peek. I guess I shouldn't say. But anyway, I love Tyson Walker. And I think he's one of the best guards in the country. And so I think Michigan State will be very good. Beyond that, boy, the Big Ten is gettable. The Big Ten is gettable beyond those teams. So I think Indiana might take a slight step back in terms of their overall team from last year and still be able to rack up a better Big Ten record. And then maybe you feel like you're rounding into form as March gets there, and you can make a nice little run in the tournament, right? Because I think this is going to have to be a really good coaching job from Mike Woodson. And he basically said that yesterday. It was like, there's a lot of work left to do with this team. We have keep talking about all the new guys they have, and he's right. They have a lot of new guys, and you not only have a lot of new guys, you're losing the guy that was the fixture of the program for 4 years. For 4 years, Trace Jackson Davis was the guy on this team. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about that. He was the guy as soon as he walked in the door to the day that he left. And so now that he's not there anymore, you're not only having to bring in all these new guys and figure out how those pieces fit, you have to find a way to replace the production that he gave you if you're going to have any chance of being a good team. And I think Indiana does have a chance to be a good team. But it's going to have to be a really good coaching job on the court from Mike Woodson. And I at this point, I trust him to figure that out. I think that's one of the highest compliments I can pay Mike Woodson, the job that he's done at Indiana, is that I trust him on the court to figure out what to do with those guys and how to best utilize them. But it's not going to be easy by any means. There are going to be growing pains with this team. I would not be surprised if it ends up in a situation where Indiana is not in the same position it was in January of last year, where it was like, boy, this is rough, but a similar position where if the season ended in January, the tournament would be kind of iffy for Indiana. I wouldn't be surprised they're in that position and they turn it on in the second half of the season, just because it's going to take a month or two or even 2.5 to figure out some roles for these guys.
Defense, it's the defense.
I wonder.
That's the hardest adaptation for any kid coming out of high school into D1. If you're playing for Mike Woodson, it's the defense is going to be the hardest adaptation. Anybody can play offense. Anybody can run, take a pick, set a pick, catch a ball, take a shot. But defense, people think it's just as easy as staying in front of a guy. God, there's that's what made Bob Knight's motion offense so difficult for opponents. For those of you that don't understand, and I'm not going to act like I am an expert and I understand, but from, again, talking to as many IU former players as possible, the motion offense was about freedom of decision by the offensive player. depended upon what the defender was doing. So it constantly is putting the pressure on the defense because the ball is not going to a certain place. It's going to go one of three places probably, depending on what you do. And as long as his offensive player made the right decision, it continues to put, and then that just would add up because now you have another guy that's got to make a right decision. So
it was really good at making defenses scramble. That was the whole thing.
And again, playing defense is hard enough. You got guys picking you, coming at you from the side, you knocking the crap out of you. Why? I mean, you're moving hard, and all of a sudden, bam! You run into a big old body. Yeah. Other big news coming up, as I think this is right along the timeline that I'm not bragging, but that I predicted. I didn't say that it was going to happen Sunday, but it's been probably about 10 days now that I've been saying that we're 10 days out. I think we're a week out for Liam McNeely. And then it was announced that he is going to be making his announcement of the decision he has made on Sunday, which, number one, his decision's already made. And that tells me his decision is already made. I think that he was waiting for this event, apparently.
The Geico National. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is fine, because that also that's beneficial to whomever that the receptor is, which again, I'm 99% that it's going to be Indiana. Not again, this is not a fan thing going. I'm going to be more than shocked if it goes any other way.
Sure.
But I expect Liam to announce on Sunday that he's going to India. But that's not the same as having a guy drafted, but that's along those lines because of where this is taking place. If you're not with the Geico Nationals, this is the national finals of high school basketball for kids that are not in regular high schools.
Yeah. And it's also where he goes to school, right? Like, he is another Montverde kid after IU has already gotten Jalen Hood-Schifino and Malik Renew, right? Like, these are IU. If you get him, you can credibly say we're building a pipeline to the best high school program in the country, which is no small thing, right? And also, if Liam McNeely chooses IU, you start to feel somewhat better about your chances at Derek Queen as well, his teammate. I know those guys are kind of attached to the hip. Now, the Derek Queen is less sure, right? I think that's fair to say for IU. There's a smaller chance, but if Liam McNeely comes to IU, then maybe you start to feel a little bit better about that, that kind of thing. So it's one of those things, again, where recruiting is all about momentum, and it can start to snowball real quickly in one direction or the other. And right now, IU seems to be snowballing in a good direction.
Yeah, and earlier Brandon commenting on when I said a slow progress climb. He said that Mike Woodson took a program that hadn't made the tournament in years, in the tournament in 1 year, and et cetera. I'm not saying that he hasn't been successful, but he hasn't gone. He didn't go from year one to making the tournament to making the Final Four, and not that I think that he should. It's a slow progressive climb up. They have made a progression each year, and I was not knocking in any way. But to me, I think they have to get to the second weekend this year. And I think that's going on paper, that's harder than to do with this team than it was last year's team, just because of personnel. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen, and all that. So just want to be clear on that. But what were we talking about? I got sidetracked.
Talking about the commitment coming Sunday and what that might mean.
Exactly. And then I think from Boogie Fland is where Liam McNeely is. I'm would be shocked. Boogie Fland is I think it's more than a coin flip in Indiana's favor.
Yeah.
but it may be I hate to use the coin flip because coin flip is 50-50. Oh, not really. It's tails like 51-49, isn't it?
Just because of the weight of the coin, right?
I think that Indiana has that much or a better line, but Calipari's not going away.
No.
But they don't. They're also. I think Woody really has gone all in on him, but he's also sold Boogie on the fact that, hey, Xavier's gone after this year.
Yeah.
Boom. Here's this role is wide open for you to step right into. We expect Xavier to be drafted in the NBA, as was Jalen Hood-Schifino, and as hopefully you can. That's a good sell right there. Not that Kentucky doesn't get guys to the NBA, but those. I'll be honest, I've said it before. How many of those guys weren't going to the NBA? When you're already projected to do that, Jalen was not projected to go in the NBA first round draft last year before the season, and really up until the end because of Xavier's injury. And that's one of the things I talked to Mike about yesterday. I think it was Mike that I brought this up to, that there was a sort of silver lining in Xavier's injury because it allowed Jalen Hood-Schifino the opportunity of a lifetime that he would not have gotten had Xavier been there. I think it was actually X that I asked this of. But so he steps up, gets this extra opportunity, experience, does a great job doing it, and ends up getting drafted because of it, which benefits Indiana. But now you've got Xavier back, a veteran this year, not having to worry about that spot being filled. So that works out great. And then if you can land Boogie Fland, boom, boom, boom. And I think that is how it will fall for Indiana. I truly do. Derek Queen, I don't know about yet. He's part of the Montverde group that Indiana has a good line on, but he has been thought to be a Maryland lean. He just finished up a trip at Kansas with former coach Kelvin Sampson, and he still has a trip to Maryland yet. So these are going to be laid out commitments. Boogie Fland, his will come around Halloweenish. Maybe he'll dress up as something. I don't know. And then I don't even know when Queen's visit to Maryland is. So his won't come for probably a week to 2 weeks after that.
Right. And Maryland is going to try to make it so that basically he doesn't leave without committing. Essentially, that is Maryland's goal for that visit, is to get him to commit while he's there, obviously. But no, I'm interested in Boogie Fland because he's made it very clear that one of the things that he cares the most about is like coaches showing up. Like he was like, look, whoever is around the most is going to have a really good kind of inside track on where I want to go. Like basically show me you care. And Mike Woodson they've been going to his games 4 deep for months, right? Like, I think that. I mean, I'm not saying Calipari hasn't, I don't really know, but Mike Woodson has been showing up. And I think it's just interesting to kind of look back on when Mike Woodson was hired, the knock on him as a hire for Indiana. The reason a lot of people said this won't work, or this has a small chance of working, or this is a C- hire, which is what some people said, right? People said that nationally, some locally, but mostly nationally. And basically we're like, this won't work because Mike Woodson is 60 years old and doesn't want to go on the recruiting trail all that much because he's 60 years old. And Mike Woodson has gone out and proven that to be a complete, like, it's just not true. He has kicked that statement in the ass. I said
absolutely. I sent out a tweet probably maybe a week ago. I said, for any of those that thought exactly what you just said, I go, I think he has more than proven them wrong, because he's about to out recruit a lot of guys. Even if he's got to get 2 out of the 3 for this to be a really successful group, because if not, All right, you got Liam, but you've been working on him hard for 2 years. Getting Boogie, that's going to make this a top 10 class probably automatically.
Yeah.
Now Queen could be the icing on the cake. I don't know. Again, if they were to land him, that would be the best class they've landed since 1989, 3 decades.
Yeah, but and that's the it's a really interesting spot for them because like you get one, it's like okay, we're gonna have to hit the portal next offseason. It wasn't as good as we could have, but we had a really nice we got one really nice player. You get 2, you're feeling really good about where you're at, and you get 3, this is a generational class, right? And it's all kind of right there. We don't know, but it's all right there. So this is a really you don't usually get this kind of clarity in recruiting that there are 3 guys that you're all in on and that are all strongly considering you. And so it's all like 1, 2, or 3, you're going to feel differently about each one of those. And it's just a really interesting spot that they're in right now.
Let's got to take a quick break. Let's see. I will see if Dylan can hang in there for a couple more minutes.
Sure.
But from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette, Dylan Sinn with us right now, back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Wow, I just saw Adam Schefter. This is big for Colts fans. Not going to be good. Quarterback Anthony Richardson is now expected to miss 4 to 8 weeks, depending upon his rehab and whether he is or not. He is still would need surgery on his right shoulder, per source.
Haven't they been winning without him?
Well, that's they have the great fortune of having the mustache.
Good backup. A lot of people don't even like Anthony Richardson. People that like, I know there's the people that do.
You gotta let him grow, man. He's a rookie. He's a rookie. He's got to quit freaking getting hurt. But he gets hurt because he's got to learn how to. Hey, this ain't college, man.
He needs to learn how to slide is part of it. But he's so big and athletic. He's so physical. Yeah, like I mean, like.
Well, it's like I think it was that he got a concussion when he scored the touchdown.
Yeah.
How do you not? There's no way you're not going for the pylon.
Right.
I'm sorry. I mean, you're in the moment as a competitor. Damn it, I'm getting into that end zone. I get that.
Cam Newton had to learn how to slide too, right? And right now, that's kind of the best comp for Anthony Richardson is a guy who could be Cam Newton if a fair amount of things break right. But he's that kind of body with that kind of arm, and he's the type of guy who could be like a battering ram in the run game if you want to make him that. But the Panthers made Cam Newton that, and it shortened his career by like 8 years. Like he was done by 30 because they treated him like a running back, and running backs are usually done by 30. And I'm not saying Cam Newton was a running back. I'm saying that they treated him like a running back in the run game where they had him on 3rd and 2. Cam, go pick it up for us, right? And so Anthony Richardson can be that kind of player, but the question is, do you want him to be that kind of player? Because it shortens his career pretty significantly. Quarterbacks play a very long time in the NFL if they're good, unless you treat him like Cam Newton, right? And so I'm interested to see how they try to protect him because I do think he has a ton of talent. It's just a question of, first of all, not being on the field. Like he was a work in progress when they drafted him. They knew that, and you need to get reps in order to get better. So that's why it's like the injury stinks because he's missing reps more than it's like going to cost the Colts a playoff spot. Because I don't think right now the difference between him and Gardner Minshew is not that big in terms of like, do you have a chance to win? But it's a question of down the road. It should be much bigger, and this is delaying that possibility.
John, is there a spot we need a guest on in the next 2 days?
In the next 2 days?
Or next week?
We could talk for next week. We're pretty full, I believe, the next couple of days, but
okay.
Let's do it for next week, whoever it is.
Get Myron Metcalf from ESPN. He was that.
All right, here we go, guys. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of Wow Food Group. This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this Wednesday. I have to keep looking. I got to be honest with you. The traveling this kind of messes with me. And I got you were busy, didn't have to make the trip, Dylan. Luckily, it was. I'll wait till we get into another segment for me to give props to Minneapolis, but I'm going to give them props. I really crapped on them last time. Half of it is because I don't want to be there. Nobody wants to travel north. The weather was okay this time, but when we go back in early March, not so much. Last year there was snow we had to go to Albany, New York for the NCAA tournament, and they had like 10 inches of snow 2 days before the announcement. I'm like, no. Because Indiana, it was down to Indiana going to Albany, Columbus, and I think it was somewhere in Florida.
It was somewhere in Florida, yeah.
I'm begging, please, if there's a God, like it be Florida. And nope, it was the icy, frozen tundra of Albany. But
did you see Jeff Goodman's tweet? No, he tweeted that basically there was almost no one there at the Big Ten Media Days yesterday. He was just like,
no, you should have saw it last year.
Yeah.
I was the only, and I'm not saying this to brag, but Indiana has the biggest media contingent among the Big Ten schools.
Yeah.
Part of that's because they have a media school. We'll acknowledge that. But with that aside, there's no, I'm the only radio show that there is that follows IU, that goes up and does that stuff for IU basketball. Now, for football, that's different. There's, Nebraska sends 3 radio shows. Football's different, but basketball, no. But last year, it was mostly local Minneapolis or Minnesota media there than anything. I was the only Indiana representative last year there when they had it there, which it shocked me. And even this year, there were, I think, 5 of us total. Yeah. 5. I mean, how many in a normal year, even in Chicago, how many media reps covering Indiana would there be? 25?
Somewhere in there. It's a lot. The podiums are usually surrounded by people when we do the breakout sessions. It's usually, for football, Tom Allen is surrounded by people, and Indiana football, obviously, everyone knows, is not quite the behemoth that Indiana basketball is. And so it is wild to see just like 3 people there.
A funny thing happened. Northwestern's coach, women's coach, cannot remember his last name, on Monday when they were doing the women's. He was sitting, his breakout podium was like the first one, and then right past that, that's where the main Big Ten set was. And I don't know if Caitlin Clark was just coming off or about to come off, but he said, could someone ask Caitlin Clark to come sit with me for a minute? Because he had nobody there. You feel horrible, but yeah, that's a school that's in Chicago.
Yeah.
How does this sometimes not send somebody to cover freaking something?
In fairness, they also finished last in the Big Ten last year. Northwestern women's basketball has historically been pretty good. They've had teams.
But for the men, if you're going to send for the men, don't be a tight ass. Spend an extra $130 for another hotel room night.
I think that's right. Yeah. But no, it's interesting because the men's team was very good last year. Remember, that was like the best Northwestern men's basketball team basically ever. And it's just interesting. What is it going to be like next year or the year after when they have it in Vegas?
I will say this: there was also another funny exchange before I let you go. I'm not going to name him, but one of the Big Ten Network guys that you see on there. I was walking by. I said, hey, did I know him? Shake, hey, man, how are you? Shaking his hand. And we were chit-chatting about it. And I said, yeah. I said, here we are in beautiful Minneapolis. And I forget what I said. I go, if it wasn't for it, he goes, yep. If it wasn't for it, we'll just leave it there. And I'm like, oh, that caught me by surprise. I thought it was just me or other media people that hated it. It's not.
Yeah.
That was permeated. So that really tells me, I don't know that Kevin Warren was liked anywhere within the conference. And that's hard to do. I piss some people off, but I don't piss everybody off.
And we thank you for that, Jim.
I thank you for being one of the few, maybe. But yeah, that surprised me that it permeated to that level.
Yeah. No, it seems to really have. It's difficult to find people saying a lot of good things about him at this point. And it'll be interesting to see where they go, because obviously Tony Petitti is not really, I still don't know how to say his name. That's how new he is obviously still new and still settling into the job. He obviously did a huge, was part of a huge deal this offseason with Oregon and Washington coming. But I mean, the Big Ten has generally had their commissioners stick around for a very long time. And Kevin Warren was only here for 3 years. I wonder if Tony Petitti will be the same way, where it's kind of like, you're here for a long time. You're the guy for a while.
Well, I think that he will, because it's a growing entity that has turned in, not that it wasn't big already, no pun intended. It is becoming a behemoth. It is the behemoth. Once you get Washington, well, I'm going to go long and I shouldn't do that, but yeah, it's getting big. What's up next for you, man?
Yep, I will be at Notre Dame USC on Saturday night. Notre Dame looking to bounce back from the loss to Louisville.
Notre Dame's out of the conference or college football playoffs. If they beat Washington, if they beat USC, I think they're out after their overtime win at Arizona. We'll talk about that more next week.
All right, looking forward to it.
Make sure you give Dylan a follow on social media, and if you're in the Fort Wayne area, be a subscriber to the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Keep local papers alive. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you very much, Jim. Appreciate that, as always.
Appreciate you. Much more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market, you know what we may have to start doing?
What?
Having an open phone call between you and me with a different with an earplug in this ear to the phone and this one to here.
That would be ridiculous. I get why you want to do that, but that would be terrible.
Well, but it's like working in television. I mean, you've got your earpieces and the producer.
Then I wouldn't hear any messages that are sent to me, though. That's the way that works.
What do you mean you wouldn't hear?
If I have an open phone call with you, then I wouldn't hear anything that else would come through my phone. If that makes sense.
It doesn't still notify you?
It can, but I'm not going to sit there. I'm going to be listening to the show. I'm not doing the whole. I'm not going to have anything plugged into my phone. It just sits next to me.
Well, that's just what I'm saying. That's just for you to scream, "Get out!"
No, you were fine. Break. What I've learned, whenever I'm editing the show, I just find the place where it needs to stop, and I cut it off, and then I find the outro of the show and I paste it there. That's I have a like I have everything down to a science.
That's only I hate when I go over there. I'm like, damn it.
It happens.
Oh, trust me. Let's see. Where's it? Oh man. Man, going to the Notre Dame USC game.
Who is?
Dylan.
Oh, okay. Is it at Notre Dame? Well, that's good. At least he doesn't have to travel out to Southern California.
Oh, yeah, that would just be awful. That would be terrible to have to go out to sunny Southern California. I'm
not
going
about
to
the
be
weather. It's the fact that it's 2 plane flights away, it seems like.
No, baby, you can get to LA on one.
From Indianapolis?
Yep. Man, Las Vegas, LA, any place but freaking Portland. Portland was, God.
Did you have to fly into Minneapolis first? Is that how that worked?
I don't even remember, dude. It was.
I feel like that's what you did, but I don't remember either.
Dude, that was such a whirlwind.
That was a wild week right there.
I left Dayton at 2:30 in the morning, drove straight to the Indianapolis airport, and was on a plane at like 7. A plane that I just booked in between.
Here, we got to come back. If you want to tell the story, we can talk about it. We don't have to, though. StonecrestLiving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by Hank's Pizza Mac. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Indy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios here on this Wednesday, October 11th. Just finished up with Dylan Sinn. Appreciate him. Rick Bozich coming up in the next segment. We'll have plenty to talk about with him as well. But Boogie Flan, I'm curious to see what Boogie Flan's the crystal balls on him that all around. I know Rivals has crystal balled him. Oh, daggone it. I'm drawing a blank on his name. But has crystal balled him to Indiana. Indiana's in great shape. That doesn't mean, by saying they're in great shape, like I sent out a tweet the other day and it happens, everybody. The funny thing about Twitter has become so Facebook, and it's aggravating. It used to be more of a place where the sports information was posted and presented, and the people would absorb it. And now everybody's got to be. It's just like the new Facebook. And the funny thing is, a lot of people love to only comment if they think that they can get some kind of dig in. And then they don't really, it's not what was said. Like I had said something that I think that Indiana's in great shape for this trio. I feel good about Liam McNeely, like everybody does. It's not like I'm saying something that's radical. Geez, that's the word. That's the word. Inside, outside. That's the word. Boogie, person I have spoken to, a source that's in New York that I talked to, is it's like this. You've got Indiana slightly in front of Kentucky, and they might be tied with Alabama. Not sure, but that you've got 3 weeks to go. Who knows? That can change. But at this moment, as Dylan talked about with the frequent visits, I think Indiana's in good shape for him. Now, and then I think I ended the comment with, does Mike Woodson have a queen up his sleeve? A little funny play on words. And then someone said, oh, you said so-and-so last year. I'm like going, well, what the hell am I saying here? It's a statement. It's not even a prediction. But that's that. Minneapolis, before I forget, as a city, I realized on this trip how much of a huge sports town Minneapolis is. I arrived on Sunday. By the time I got to the hotel or whatever, it's like, I don't know, 5. Well, the Vikings were playing the Chiefs. And when the game was over, all the people filling into the little restaurant, the hotel restaurant, and I was sitting next to a guy who was a Chiefs fan, flew in from Boston, your cousin from Boston, just for that game. And just, you could see that, man, they like their Vikings. But it's not just that. You know, my hotel's a block and a half from the Target Center where the Timberwolves play. And you've got Target Field, which was right by that, where the ALDS was happening yesterday. In between, they had the Big Ten media days. But it's a sports town. And the guy was saying, yeah, the hockey arena is right over here, and then the soccer is over there. I'm like, damn, they are a sports town. But it is also, and it's kind of like Indianapolis, downtown, tons of great restaurants all around the downtown area. And it is not like it was in Portland. And I don't want to go into all that because I was having a conversation with a friend of mine about something else. He's like, oh yeah, that's a liberal city, this and that. You got all that. I didn't see it. I'm telling you, I didn't see it. Not only did I not see it, I went to the same Mexican restaurant 2 nights in a row because it was that good. But walking back the second night, they have in the downtown area, a lot of corridors, they just have these 2-lane streets, and the sidewalks are it's about split into thirds. Third of sidewalk on this side, a third of the 2 lanes, and a third of the sidewalk on the other side of the street. But anyway, this city worker at 10 p.m. at night is power washing the sidewalks. And I said, do y'all do this every night? And she goes, oh yeah. And I'm like, damn. So great city, great food. The Mexican food I had was incredible. And the thing that blew my mind the most, at the airport, I had these wings that were like full size wings. I'm talking about the drum connected to the rest with the other piece on it yet. And it was $16. I'm like, I am at an airport, right? Am I getting punked? But so want to make sure I gave Minnesota Minneapolis the props. As you know, I did not last year. Speaking of Minnesota, there's a former Minnesotan, Pete, who is now back in the good state of Indiana. Cicero says he thinks I asked a good question to Terry Morin, but they didn't have the journalist mic'd. Yes, I was thinking that not only for the fans, but for us finding those clips to use. The Big Ten generally sends out a poll to the media afterwards to say, hey, what can we do better? And I usually say, that is something that has finally been dawned on me. It's too easy not to. But that desperately needs to happen because it ruins. It's so hard if you want to use it for clips, but they're thinking about radio people mainly. But even if there's TV people there and you're plugged into the audio box, which I plug into the audio box, which gives you great sound from the speaker. But again, you cannot hear the questions unless it's an overflow thing. But that's that. I thought it was funny. Terry was asked a question. I talked about that yesterday, that how Caitlin is part of what she's doing. And she quickly I think the Big Ten is doing a good job. And I'm like, nice, smooth, very, very smooth. Looking forward to Rick Bozich joining us here in a little bit. Sorry I did not get to your questions with a lot of the guys yesterday. John, do you have any of the sound?
I had some pulled up earlier, and then I accidentally, well, not even accidentally, I thought we weren't going to get to it, and I got rid of it. So that's my fault.
No worries. Justin asking, can Florida State or can Louisville beat Florida State or Miami?
I hate to interject, but I want to go ahead and say something about Louisville. So I don't know if you've looked ahead, but considering I don't really cover Louisville, but I also work on an afternoon show that is Louisville sports based. And if you look ahead at the rest of their schedule, if you look at the ESPN prediction index, whatever it's called, the only game that Louisville isn't
not
currently favored to win is at
Florida
Miami.
State.
No, it's Miami. They don't play Florida State. They don't play Florida State, North Carolina, or Clemson. So Louisville.
So Louisville is basically in the Big Ten West.
The Big Ten West, but they don't have divisions currently in the ACC.
Yeah,
Louisville under Jeff Brom in year one has a very, very high chance at not only getting to the ACC championship, but if they do that and beat whoever that opponent is, whether it be Florida State, North Carolina, Miami, even probably won't be Miami, but they're up there in that race right now. I mean, I can't imagine this, but I mean, there is a chance, an outside chance that Jeff Brom's Louisville in year one could make the college football playoff, which is wild to think about. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's interesting to think about.
That's a bold statement. A good point. I do not, let's see.
Go ahead and place your futures bets now.
I'm putting down. All right, so Michigan is in.
You're talking about if it started today.
Yeah. Anytime. Let's go ahead and take a break.
Yeah, we can hear Rick Bozich's thoughts on this.
Yes, absolutely. Great person to fire in on that as well. The great Rick Bozich joins us next year on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back with that and much more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Oh boy, Rick, John was just
I opened up a can of worms.
He was just explaining how Louisville has a path to the college football playoffs this year, which they do have a path, but that is a steep path. Michigan, whoever's out of the SEC, whoever is out of the Pac-12, and that'll leave one spot for somebody to fight for. Or not even Michigan, Big Ten, I should say. There could be Penn State, who knows? But there is one spot. But does somebody
There's also a scenario? I didn't even mention this earlier. There's a scenario where where three teams from the ACC, Louisville, North Carolina, and Florida State, are all undefeated at the end of the regular season because none of them play each other.
Right.
And if the current tiebreaker rules, Louisville will be the team left out of the ACC championship if they were to all go 12-0.
Correct. That's correct.
Isn't that nuts, though? The way that I mean, not that that's how it's going to play out, but the fact that could play out that way.
Yeah, I didn't realize Carolina didn't play Florida State either.
God, they got some crappy games this year in the ACC. They don't have any of those guys playing each other. No, just the ACC. They don't have any of the
no marquee matchups. Not as many marquee matchups.
You don't have Michigan versus Ohio State and Michigan versus Penn State.
Yeah, that'd be like if all three of those teams didn't play each other.
Oh, but Indiana plays them every year.
And even in the new schedule, they get Michigan and Ohio State.
They got added back. They thought they were out, but they pulled them back in.
That's the worst part about it. You avoided them in the most recent rehash. I still think that they're going to end up scrapping it again when they potentially add Clemson and or Florida State this offseason.
They are not. They are the Big Ten.
You don't think they would? You don't think Florida State and Clemson want to get out of that, whatever they call it, media rights
They can
deal?
want whatever they can crap in one hand and wish in the other and see which one fills up first on getting out of this media rights deal. They are locked.
If the Big Ten sees value in it, though, they'll help them get out.
Dude, it's like
and North Carolina is also a team that could fit that.
Rick, isn't the money just too high right now? I mean, because it's still.
After I heard that SMU raised $100 million in a week, anything's possible. Anything.
And how about that? SMU, you're like, what? Wow, boy.
All right, here we go, guys.
Or pick out a tomahawk steak or a grouper filet and enjoy it cooked to perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville and Evansville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from high atop the 18th fairway of a frozen tundra of the golf course at Eagle Point Studios. Man, I just got back from Minneapolis, so that's saying something. Weather were not much different down here, Rick. It feels like I was in a time warp there. And I was just giving Minneapolis such great props because last year I hated having to go there so bad that I was pissed off before I got there. So I had nothing good to say about Minneapolis. But what an incredible sports town that place is, man. I was like, wow. Vikings going on, the Twins were going on, and they love them.
Was the media day at the Target Center?
Target Center, yeah.
Well, you were right next to the baseball stadium, right?
Exactly. Everything is right there within reach. Lots of great restaurants, kind of similar to Indy downtown. It's a good place, other than probably between right now and next March. When I have to return there for the Big Ten tournaments. They're having both of them.
The thing I'll say about Minneapolis is, though, they embrace the cold weather. First of all, there's a lot of outdoor activity.
You don't have much of a choice.
And if you look downtown, you can walk from one end of downtown to the other end of downtown without going outside because they have those skyways.
Lots of those.
And if you know where you're going, I mean, you could. I remember when I was there 2 years ago when Louisville was in the women's Final Four. Louisville's hotel was like 6 blocks away, and I walked over there a couple of times a day and never went outside. So.
Lots going on, of course, to talk about. We just finished up Big Ten basketball media days up in Minneapolis. I have not been able to digest most of it yet, other than what I was able to get Woody and Xavier and Trey Galloway on the show. And then, of course, we had them in the breakout sessions as well. But I couldn't get to Matt Painter, who was going on at the same time as Woody, and Tom Izzo was going on at the same time as the Purdue players, which I was trying to get. But I was talking about the Purdue players earlier. They're either all business or they didn't care to be there. Ethan, I keep wanting to call him Ethan Allen. I want to keep calling him Ethan Allen. And every time I do, I'm thinking of Abraham Lincoln in the movie Lincoln. But Ethan Morton, let's see, that's ADHD for you, baby. It just spins off all over the place. But he was not really locked into the session. Zach was. He seems like he's all business, which was probably not a good news for the rest of the league, but they're going to have to be. I asked Mason Gillis about I know a single loss doesn't define a season, but the being swept by Indiana, getting beat at home in Lafayette there late in the season, and what that do, and he acknowledged that it hurt, but he said he held up two of the biggest rings I've ever seen, and says, but if I've got to take 2 losses to get these, I'll make that trade every time. So good answer. But and I asked this earlier of Dylan Sinn, who was with us from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. How much pressure is on Matt Painter to at minimum get to a Final Four this year? Because if not this year, when with this talent, with what they have coming back? And it also takes luck to get there. But if there's a team that is set up better, other than maybe a UConn or something like Kansas, man, they're right there.
Yeah, I think Painter's got the most pressure on him of any coach in the country, because it's not just Fairleigh Dickinson, it's Fairleigh Dickinson and St. Peter's and North Texas. And, really there's nothing Purdue can do this season that's going to change anything until the NCAA tournament. They've won the Big Ten before. They won the Big Ten tournament, obviously, last year. But people want to see them do something in the NCAA tournament. And they should have been in the Final Four in 2019 when they lost that game to Virginia. But Virginia made, great play at the end of the game and got into overtime and beat them. So I like Matt Painter. I respect Matt Painter. I think he's a really good coach. But the world we live in, you're judged on what you do in the NCAA tournament. And if they had just lost, that Elite Eight game and then another Sweet 16 game, that would be one thing. But to lose the 3 games they've lost, that's defining. Because let's think back, compare this to, Tom Crean lost 3 Sweet 16 games. The one was horrible to Syracuse, and he never was able to shake that the rest of his career at Indiana, right? And you imagine if Tom Crean had lost to St. Peter's or to Fairleigh Dickinson, Indiana fans would have buried him by now, right? I mean, there's no doubt about it. So, Matt Painter gets a break because he's at Purdue, I think, because it doesn't have the same kind of pressure that the IU job has. But, I as I said, I like him, but you got the returning consensus national player of the year. You got what, 3 other starters back or all 4? I don't even know. Are they all back?
Oh yeah. For Purdue?
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. They've got both guards. They've got Mason Gillis. I'm assuming Ethan Morton's a starter, and you got Zach Edey.
So they didn't lose anybody? I thought they had to lose somebody.
They added 1 person to their roster.
Oh, wow. Well, then the pressure's on, and let's see what you can do.
That's why I'm like going, I don't know if there's a team in America other than maybe Florida Atlantic, Dusty May, that is in complete I think they're intact completely.
Yeah, they are. The starting 5 is back for sure.
So that's amazing. But you mentioned the losses. People kind of forget the last 7 years of Bob Knight's tenure did not go well. Mike Davis won more NCAA tournament games in his run to that national championship than Coach Knight did in his 7 previous seasons combined. And so I'm sure that people may not think about it, but there was probably that stuff lingering. But it's going to be the Big Ten, Michigan State. They're kind of looked at as the co-favorite, but they're not getting quite the attention that Purdue is. And it doesn't hurt when you've got a 7'12" monster. Did you see the video clip of him banging the gong at the Colts game?
No.
I didn't know there was such a thing, but they got this gong. They had him. It was a planned thing, and he was talking about it. They sent him this big Purdue hat that looked like an oversized train conductor's hat. And I'm like, why the hell do you think you need to put anything big onto a 7'4" guy already? And then he had a baseball at yesterday on the dais, which I'm going to have to get that picture sent out to John. But Myron Metcalf from ESPN asked him, hold it up again. And what he did, and I think that he could put his hands behind his back and tell you to say, which hand's the baseball in? I'm not kidding. And I'm like, oh my God. I was thinking, can you imagine him on the mound? Yeah, try to pick up his pitches. Nope. All you're going to see is a fist every time, which is nuts. But they, I think that they secretly know the pressure's on as well. And it's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. But then, all right.
How many times were they asked about Fairleigh Dickinson and everything yesterday? I mean, I'm sure a million. And they have lost one player. Brandon Newman transferred to Western Kentucky.
There you go. There's the one guy that came in.
Starter, but he did play quite a bit. He started some games, I think.
Well, they talked about the hurt. I mean, that how much that it hurt, and that you shouldn't get over it. I mean, I could never get over something like that. You don't forget it, at least. But that they've got to move forward. It's the same thing that Indiana women answered. They had those same questions
and they should.
Man, I said, boy, if I had a ton of money and was going to bet on that game, I would have lost, and I would have lost big, because there is no way you could have convinced me Indiana was going to lose in Simon Scott Assembly Hall, the women last year. I was like, hell no. But obviously we see that's why sports are great. Things happen when no way. Louisville beating Notre Dame. What a huge, huge win that is for Jeff Brom. Now, what are they, 6-0 now?
6-0, heading to Pittsburgh Saturday. And then they have a week off. The last 5 games, 4 of them are at home. So they're sitting in very good shape to contend for the ACC title, to have a really good season. Whether that would be 10 wins, 11 wins, or 12 wins, I don't know. But, they've answered every question put in front of them, and they played their best game against Notre Dame. It wasn't a fluke of any kind. They stuffed Notre Dame's running game. They ran the ball effectively against Notre Dame, much more effectively than Ohio State did or Duke did. And, I think this will be an interesting game. Pitt's lost 4 in a row and is changing its quarterback, but Pitt was off last week, and they're a desperate team. If they lose,
maybe they could hire Matt Canada as offensive coordinator.
Isn't he there with the Steelers?
He is. And they're not having a great go of it.
I'll say this, though, Louisville's beat Notre Dame now twice.
I was there for the last time. Yeah. Up at Notre Dame. What year was that? Like 2011 or something?
No, a little bit later than that. It was Reggie Bonifant was the quarterback. I'm going to say it was 2014 or 2015, somewhere in there.
I went up there to take my daughter. I had gotten tickets, and I did not have other responsibilities, so I took my daughter. And I've said this many times. It was an incredible experience. And if you have not had an experience to go to a Notre Dame game, I don't care who you're a fan of. They treat everybody. They've got people scattered all over the place on sidewalks. Welcome to Notre Dame. Can I help you? Guiding you, because they know people want to go see the Golden Dome or the Grotto or whatever. It's nuts. And I'm like, it's a freaking museum of sorts.
Yeah.
And they treat it that way.
It's a bucket list experience. You need to see a game at Notre Dame.
Without question. The only thing I've ripped them for, I was fortunate to have seen Indiana play them the last time they played in '91 with Trent Green. That was before.
Yeah, I went to that game.
I was there with Rick Van Hoos, as a matter of fact.
Oh wow.
But that was before they raised it a little bit and increased it.
Right.
And the fact that they did not leave a cutout at the end for the touchdown Jesus, I'm like, how do you not do that? Because before you could see the touchdown Jesus from down in no matter where you were, pretty much. And now you can't. And I'm like, why, give up 50 seats, man. Come on. But oh well, there's that. The Big Ten schedule is out. That's interesting, to say the least. We laughed about Indiana, getting out of the Big Ten East, but yet Ohio State, Michigan, right back. the Big Ten is never, and this sounds like a homer thing to say, and I hate it, but the Big Ten will never do Indiana favors in football. And if people, and it's not just Indiana, but they're going to look at doing the best for the best to make the Big Ten the best. And that does not include doing Indiana favors. Indiana has had a Big Ten opener 5 out of 7 seasons. Nobody else has that. Nobody else come close to that. 2 of those against Ohio State. They played Iowa once. That was Iowa's second time since 1979 of having a Big Ten opener. So that's how that's going to go. But hey, I think they did a good job with the schedule overall in itself. If you're not an Indiana fan, Indiana gets to go to the Rose Bowl, Rick.
I saw that. Yeah, for the first time since January 1st, 1968, when they lost to OJ 14-3. Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I'll say this. Indiana has to help itself. You look, absolutely. What I just mentioned was Louisville has beaten Notre Dame twice in the last decade. Can you imagine Indiana beating Notre Dame? No, you can't. Why can
Ohio State?
Why can Louisville do it? Yeah. Why can Louisville do it and Indiana can't do it? Kentucky beat Florida 3 years in a row after never beating them for 31 straight years. Can you imagine Indiana beating Ohio State 3 years in a row? And I know that Florida is not Ohio State, but they're a program that's won 2 or 3 national titles in the last 20 years.
I have said on here recently that Kentucky is a program that Indiana should pattern itself after.
Exactly right. Or Louisville, either one. Invest in the program, make it a priority. Put more resources and put more. I mean, I think one thing that has changed is it's not just you, it's other people, podcasts and media people are putting more pressure on the university to get the football program right. And that's what fans need to do. They need to not accept the status quo. They need to not accept mediocrity, because as long as you keep accepting it, you're going to keep getting it. And, they don't accept it in basketball. When Archie Miller went bad from the get-go, the pressure was up. As soon as Tom Crean lost that game to Syracuse, the pressure was up. In football, I love Lee Corso, but go back and look at his record. He was allowed to be at Indiana for 10 seasons, and he had 2 winning seasons, maybe 3. That's not the way a program that aspires to win goes about its business. It's not. And so, I know that Tom Allen changed offensive coordinators during the off week. Maybe it'll make a bit of a difference, but the pressure has to come from the fan base in some ways to say, hey, this has to be better.
It has to come from some of the money people as well.
It does.
The big donors, and basketball's not where it needs to be yet either.
Right.
Where they want it to be, where fans want it to be yet. And I until that happens, I'm not sure what really goes on with IU football, but the importance has never been higher because of the changing of the Big Ten right now and who's coming in. Man, you better do something, or if you think you're a bottom dweller now, you're going to be sent to Neverland to be seen, never to be seen again.
Well, yeah. In other words, you're going to tell me a little secret. Guess what? Oregon, Washington, UCLA, and USC are pretty good, and they take football seriously.
Yes.
UCLA is probably the worst one in the group, and they got Chip Kelly as their coach, who used to be got to the national championship game, I believe, one year with Oregon and coached in the NFL. You got Lincoln Riley, who's one of the best young coaches in America at USC. You got Kalen DeBoer, how good he is at Washington, and Oregon. They might be the best. Oregon and Washington play this week. That's the game of the week this weekend.
Oh boy, can't wait. Well, and Notre Dame, USC, big one as well.
Well, after Notre Dame's lost twice now.
Yeah.
Oregon, Washington are both undefeated.
Well, here's what I said about the Notre Dame Oregon game. Notre Dame, to me, they're out of the college football.
They are. They're out.
They're out. Yeah. If USC loses to Notre Dame, they're out, because to me, that overtime win at Arizona, was like that's almost a loss. So they lose to Notre Dame, who is a 2-loss team, you're out. I'm Washington, baby. I'm I'm pushing the Huskies. I'm pulling the Husky train.
They're at home, right? They're the home team, I think, for this game.
Yes. I mean, how incredible would it be to see the Huskies make the college football playoffs? See Michael Penix win a Heisman. I think it would be incredible. It'd be great. But you mentioned Rod Carey being added to the staff. What about Justin Fuentes?
That's a good move.
It is a good move, but it's a great move, but it also shows me more desperation.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully somebody said to him, hey, you need to get this right. You need to figure this out. You can't have an offense that, I don't know, what I think they rank 111th in the country in total offense. Can't have that. You can't. I mean,
there are teams that are worse.
Go back to Lucas Oil Stadium, 4th and 18 inches away from tying Louisville.
God.
Can't get it done. Can't have that. And it's just gone on for too long, and we'll see. I mean, it's the thing about Indiana's schedule this year is just brutality again. I mean, after they got what, Michigan, Rutgers at home, then at Penn State, and then Wisconsin at home. I mean, the 3 most winnable games of the last 3. By then, if they haven't won another one before then, the bowl thing is already over, and they're going to be beaten down as it is. I mean, they got none. Illinois, Michigan State, and Purdue are the 3 most winnable games they had, and they're all stuck back there at the end. If they could have had a game earlier in the year, because the record of the 3 teams they've lost to is what, like 17-1? Is that correct?
Yeah, they're. I mean, there's no doubt their schedule is brutality.
Yeah, it's rough. And but
Louisville's not a Michigan. Louisville's not in a
Maryland. You shouldn't be getting beat by Maryland like that. You should be like, if you're a boxer, there's like super heavyweight, welterweight, whatever. You should be in the same weight class as Maryland.
Yeah,
you should be.
And unfortunately it's more like a MAC, but a middleweight. They're playing more like a middleweight right now. But we'll see if there's credit. That's going to be the weird thing. What happens if there's some improvement? And then
the offense?
Yes. And then you're like, okay, well, who's getting the credit here? How's that going to go if all of a sudden things are going well?
And between Carey? I'd say it'd have to be Carey, because, I mean, Fuente is just an analyst. He can't really go out in the field and coach. He can just break down film and make suggestions, I guess. But the bigger thing will be like, why was Walt Bell hired in the first place?
Couldn't get anybody else, I don't think.
I mean, well, I guess. I don't know. But he wasn't the right guy. And there seems some kind of disconnect between – I might be wrong. It seemed like they came into the season, though, not understanding what kind of offense they really wanted to be. Do they want to be a running offense? They wanted to be a spread offense with some option? Do they want to be a passing offense? The whole thing about not naming a quarterback suggests there was uncertainty. Even now, I guess Jackson is going to start again, but last game Sorsby was better, right?
I've called for Sorsby. I said he should have been the starter from day one. I've not changed from that. And I agree with the offense. They don't know. Part of that is, and I hate saying this, but Tom is not an offensive mind, so he doesn't really have whatever offensive scheme he has. It's just something that he's like adopted and say, well, okay, I'm gonna go with this one, as opposed to one that has developed it, worked on it. But we got a lot more to talk about. Basketball media days up in Minneapolis yesterday. Commitment coming from Liam McNeely and more. Rick Bozich from WDRB.com with us right now. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
What time is McNeely committing on Sunday?
Good question. People, what time? They'll tell us. It's at the Geico event, so I don't know if it's going to be. If you're playing, is Montverde? Is this the finals?
Playing. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I think so. Someone said it's going to be halftime of some game or something.
Oh, see what? That's a weird thing.
That's the way they do it these days.
It's so weird.
God,
in the
that's
middle
weird.
Of a game.
That's
do it after the game.
Well, I was even wondering, do you do it before the game and then have to go play? And then if you look like crap, they're like, oh, wow, congratulations.
Well, I'm surprised they're already playing games in the middle of October. Even the NBA hadn't started yet, just exhibitions. What's the feeling? What's the scuttlebutt that he's going to Indiana?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if he does not, that's going to be a shocker. That was going to be a shocker.
Really?
Boogie Fland is looking like an Indiana lean as well. We've talked about him.
What about
that's an interesting battle because that's the first time Indiana's really gone up against Kentucky for a big time recruit. The Boogie Fland.
No,
in the Mike Woodson era.
Well, it's only been 3 years, and
well, that's what I'm saying though. Like, I mean, when's the last time Indiana's been able to compete with Kentucky for guys like that?
James Blackman Jr. was the last one, I think.
Yeah, it's well, no. How about the guy that was committed? Well, he may have been before. There was a kid from Indiana that was committed to IU and then flipped. Or there was two.
Trey
Lyles. He wasn't committed. Trey Lyles. I'm thinking of Trey Lyles. Then Brooks up in Fort Wayne. He wasn't committed, but
yeah, he didn't want to come.
But then didn't he end up leaving Kentucky?
He's at Washington now. He's going to play his 5th year again at Washington. He played last year at Washington. He's going to play his 5th year at Washington.
Next year or this year?
He played last year, and he's going to play one more year. This COVID
that
year.
would have been how ironic.
Is this the last year of the COVID year?
Yes.
By the way, okay, that's what I thought.
Oh my God! Thank God.
Well, I don't know. I guess
actually no, because
I think it's one more year. Yeah.
Last season, I know he's in that class.
No, they got one more year. Galloway and Leal get one more year next year.
Jesus Christ, that's insane.
That's residency.
All right, here we go, guys.
Rounds that you like for just $299. That's better than a birdie. But you don't have to be a student to play at Eagle Point. Go online to set your tee time or call 812-824-4040. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday, October 11th. The great Rick Bozich from WDRB.com is with us. Make sure you're giving him a follow and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I noticed that we have tons of views, but tons of you guys are not subscribed. Don't miss out on the upcoming content or content like live yesterday from Minneapolis, which was a good time. That's a good arena too, the Target Center.
Yeah,
very nice
NBA arena.
Yeah, the NBA arenas have really gotten. They've found their niche. There's not much you have to do different now with them, and then boom, it's like Game Bridge. So, and I couldn't tell if I liked the Target Center better because they had the curtains. Because Game Bridge can get up there at the top. But on the basketball side of things, Liam McNeely expected to make his announcement sometime on Sunday. I don't have the exact time in front of me right now. We'll have to find out. But as I go down through to see if anybody has thrown it up on the comments, someone mentioned that maybe it's at halftime. I'm not sure. Fozan over in Amon Jordan has said that he thinks that Kansas has kind of moved on from Liam and is focused more on Passmore, Rakeem Passmore. Very, very possible. Didn't they just get? I thought they just landed some type of wing as well, but not sure. I've been head up in Minneapolis right now, but this is one that it has to go Indiana's way. Number one, if they were, because this is the one that everyone thinks it's all, but there's no such thing as a sure thing. But it's it's as close as you want to think that there is from everything that I've heard, and I've heard nothing different, that Kansas is making moves or doing this. And if they were going to try to make some last minute charge, they would have done it by now. I think Liam has got his decision made. He's just picked the time when he's going to make it known to people. And I'm confident that it's going to be Indiana. And it has to be, really, because that's a guy Indiana has gone all in on. It's a position that they have to refill, most likely, with Mackenzie Mbako, hopefully expecting to be a one and done. It doesn't guarantee that, but he's the first. And because there are others that are following chronologically, that's of uber importance for Indiana to land him.
Yeah, I agree. It'd be a big loss if they didn't get him, considering how much time and effort and energy they put into getting it, all the expectations that have been raised, the connections they've already built up with Montverde, and the way people expect, the Montverde connection to remain strong through the years because of his friendship with Derek Queen, who's another guy they're recruiting, because to be the first, as we've talked about, commitment that wasn't a picking up a guy off a decommitment since it was either Newton or Cups, one of the other ones, but it's been over 2 years. So yeah, they need to get him. And one of the benefits, if you're Indiana, that you think you get from something like that is McNeely comes, and then you can say to the other guys you're recruiting, well, here's your wing. We need a point guard. We need a big guy to play with him. And this is the team, that you're going to be on. It's going to be a very competitive team.
Justin points out, says Archie got Romeo Lander and Trace Jackson Davis. They were all 5-star recruits. But the caveat to that is he only got Romeo because Rick Pitino was fired at Louisville. You can take that to the bank. Lander was horribly overranked, and is he even starting at Western?
He did not start for most of the season at Western. I don't know if he will this year, and I feel sorry for the kid. I mean, he not only was overranked, he skipped his senior year of high school. He wasn't
talked into that, and that's that was maybe one of the worst things that Archie Miller did in his time in Indiana. He took away the opportunity for him to be on the All-Star team. He took away the opportunity for him to have a shot at Mr. Basketball. And more importantly, he took away a year of development that he obviously needed to have before he got to college.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much of it was Archie's fault or how much of it was just Lander and his.
Well, I'm gonna give all of his fault to him.
Because remember, there were other big schools involved. Louisville Chris Mack wanted him really badly too at Louisville. Other people thought he was really good, and I had never seen him play.
You know why? One guy. Who is the recruiting coordinator at Penn State right now for basketball? Brian Snow. He's at Notre Dame now, though. Didn't he go with? That's right. You're right. He was all in on him, and him and Archie were just, arm in arm buddies. And and then how it's a goofy world. Goofy world's all I can say.
Well, I mean, the thing is about the kid, he's not the one who created the hype. Other people did. And I remember when I watched him play the first time, I was like, well, okay, maybe just had a bad game. And then the second time, well, still not seeing it. And then it was like, what is going on here? And he was undersized. He wasn't like super, super quick. He was quick, but he wasn't super quick. He couldn't shoot. He couldn't finish. He couldn't play defense. And he was obsessed with standing out, 20 feet from the goal and dribbling the ball between his legs, which might look nice on a video, but it doesn't accomplish anything on the basketball court. It's stupid stuff. Coach Knight would have said, the next time you do that, you're not going to play again for 20 years. That's not winning basketball. And it's too bad. I mean, I hope the kid had success this year at Western Kentucky because he seemed like a nice kid, but man, he did something that there's no rush. Slow down and enjoy your senior year of high school. And and develop at a normal rate.
What is Chris Mack doing now?
I think he's moved to Florida and is not doing anything again.
Playing golf, enjoying the benefits of.
Yeah, I think he left. He lived here in Louisville last year because one of his daughters was a senior in high school. He might have been a volleyball player, and I think he's moved to Florida now, and he's not doing anything. I don't think. So I don't know, but he's not coaching.
I wonder how long. Back in the game. I wonder how long Lil Rhodey's contract at Rhode Island is. You got to go back and watch his acceptance when he got hired. It makes me laugh every time how he talks about. I've never seen a coach talk about. We were at this place and we had some success, and then we were at another place and it didn't.
I have the clip
well.
If you want me to run it. It's one of the ones I've saved.
Please do.
All right, here we go.
And the proud thing that I am of our first stop at the University of Dayton was we didn't stop. Sometimes you break through and you make the tournament, and then they don't hear from you for a couple years. Sometimes you break through and you continue to go. And I think that is the thing I was most proud of at Dayton, was the consistency that we had and tremendous support, unbelievable people, great friends. And then I moved to a second spot and had a press conference. And I was popular. Only at the beginning. But with comes change and transition, it's hard. And now I stand here. Maybe a little bit more flawed, maybe a little bit more imperfect, maybe don't have the shine I once had. But I will tell you this. At this stop as I speak here, this is the best I've ever been in my life. The most ready I've ever been in.
Let's see. What is his record at Rhode Island?
He had a terrible year one. I don't know how many years he's coached there now.
Just one.
Yeah, they were awful. So
9-22.
Yes. The best he's ever been.
Finished in it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 14th in a 15-team league.
Oh my God. It's funny. But it also brings to mind Indiana's hires. Man, the hires and the contracts, they kind of keep putting themselves in. I'm like, I don't think that Indiana should ever, they should have a business company. You know, they have this school here known as the Kelly School, one of the top 10 schools in the United States. They should be involved in all of the hiring process. They damn sure should be involved in writing the contracts. Whoever is writing these needs to have their hand chopped off. And then secondly, there has to be provisions in there for you to succeed. They always give them, if you do this, bam, we're going to pay. If you do this, bam. Well, if you don't, hey, we get to move on. And because in the real world, in real life, if you don't produce, if at WDRB, if people says, man, I can't stand what he's on. I don't like what he says. I don't want to. Well, WDRB is not going, and that's not going to ever happen, but or whomever, boom, out the door they go. I mean, there's probably no better example than an anchor, a TV anchor. If people don't like the way their hair is cut, if they don't get good thoughts, bam, you're gone. There goes my hat.
Well, I'll say two things, Jim. One is, and I've said this before, don't give somebody a buyout you can't afford to pay, because then it becomes an anchor. You can't do that. Just can't. And second thing, as I looked up Christian Lander and the projection for this year, he's the 10th man at Western Kentucky, projected to average 1.7 points per game and 0.5 assists. So not much optimism still for Christian, unfortunately.
What is up next for you? You have right now, you've got a piece out in the Reset, first half letter grades for Louisville, Kentucky, Indiana, and Western. in there for people to read at WDRB.com for certain. In addition to tons of other things you can go back and read.
Friday, I'm getting in the car and we're driving to Pittsburgh. Louisville plays Pittsburgh at 6:30 on Saturday night. We actually have a half-hour pregame show.
Not going to Ann Arbor to see the massacre?
I've been there for one of those. I don't even remember who was the coach when I went.
1 minute.
Might have been.
I've only been to Ann Arbor once, and it was awesome. It was when Anthony Thompson was still playing, and I actually went. Wow. I was still in school. Loudest place I've ever been in, indoor or out. And it was awesome. But safe drives to you and Mr. Crawford. Is Eric going with you?
Eric's going. Yeah, we're having fun.
Safe drives to you and Mr. Crawford. And speaking of which, check out his content. His content is just great reading all the time. Great journalism there.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy it.
Thank you very much. The great Rick Bozich joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Wednesday. That's going to pretty much wrap it up. Tomorrow, John Boy, who do we got lined up on the docket?
We got Dustin Schutte, who will be with us for the entire show.
Oh, yeah, baby.
We've got Kyle Neddenrip, who couldn't come on today, will come on tomorrow, and then we should see Chris Denary as well. And we may talk to Casey Bartley tomorrow.
I tried to think ahead and put in my schedule to talk to Rick about something on Wednesday, but I didn't do it right. I wanted to talk to him about the College Cup being in Louisville this year. That's a big deal. So
we can talk about that next time.
Yeah, you got to remind me. I got to get my days. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to everything else. Grateful for you guys today. Without you, we have no reason to be here. Thank you so much, and thanks for all the compliments on our shows, live shows yesterday. We appreciate it. That's why we go to the links we do to bring you the content that we can, and we're the only one who does that. Remember that. Hit the subscribe button, please. I look at our views, and they're 3 times the amount of subscribers. So let's get you guys subscribed. It costs nothing, and it benefits us greatly. It gets us our videos out more. But you guys go out and have yourselves a great day. Thanks to John for keeping us between the white lines. Thanks to Rick Bozich, of course, from WDRB.com, and our good friend Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. We're back tomorrow to do it again. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.